1953. It was a different time. The U.S. entering a time of post-war prosperity. Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, not even a thought.
I have a dream today.
Neil Armstrong's Walk on the Moon, over 15 years away.
It's one small step for man.
And Marty was still 2 years away from going back to the future.
Great Scott.
Then, with the flip of the switch, on September 19th, 70 years ago, WVEC-TV waltzed into Hampton Roads homes. From our first moments on the air, when only 28,000 could get our signal, until now, with nearly 2 million people in our viewing area, we've been an alternative, looking to connect, inform, serve, and celebrate everything that is Hampton Roads and Northeast North Carolina with the stories of now. The story of 13 News Now begins with the vision of one man, founder Thomas P. Chisman. If you lived in Hampton Roads in the early 1950s, there was only one station to watch, with a limited number of programs. That's when Chisman, the owner of Hampton Roads' radio station WVEC-AM, decided it was time for a second TV station to go on the air. The Federal Communications Commission had recently opened up 70 new channels for television broadcasting. Chisman was granted a license to broadcast on UHF Channel 15. On September 19, 1953, at 1:30 in the afternoon, WVEC Television signed on to the air. WVEC began broadcasting NBC programming to viewers across Hampton Roads, including television classics like Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows. Shortly thereafter, management hired a small team of reporters and photographers to cover local news. They also set aside 3 hours every weekday for educational programming, including programs teaching conversational Spanish, geometry, and science, all live. On November 13, 1959, to broadcast our signal to a wider audience, WVEC switched affiliation from NBC to ABC and moved to VHF Channel 13, where we've stayed ever since. To meet viewers' demands, WVEC provided more newscasts, longer newscasts, and increased reporting staff. Former WVEC news director Harry Doggett spoke with us back on our 40th anniversary about the early days of the station.
The anchorman at the time that I came there was a fellow named Dick Kidney. Later, Dick left to go to another station, and that's when I started doing the news. There was a writer, Louis T. Jester, actually, who wrote the news for radio, and then he also wrote it for television, and we read it.
In 1969, Donna Ray Smith became the first woman to sit behind the WVEC anchor desk, co-hosting the morning show then called Tidewater AM. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to her about that experience.
It was during the time of FCC requirements, and so I happened to be at the right place at the right time. I remember the very first time the show went on the air, Philip. My knees were shaking, because it was so scary. It's exciting to see the advances that we've made as a nation. So I was grateful for that. But yes, it was an adjustment for everyone to be working for a woman, to be working with a woman.
When you take a lot of weapons out of action, you take a lot of enemy forces out of action. And it follows that some people at least don't get killed. This is Jim Kincaid, ABC News, in the Iron Triangle.
In the 1970s, Channel 13 gained a world of experience when veteran ABC newsman Jim Kincaid signed on as anchorman.
It had the qualities that I was looking for, kind of a hometown atmosphere, a good place to raise my daughter.
Since then, WVEC has had many faces, anchoring and reporting, who have become Hampton Roads institutions. One common theme uniting all of them, serving the Hampton Roads community.
At the very core of what we do, and in my belief, what anyone should be doing, is how do you serve others?
We make a mark every single day.
Telling the stories of now, telling the stories of our neighbors.
Local news is always going to have a place. It's critical.
I'm working from when I wake up to when I go to sleep.
It's been awesome. It's not like this everywhere. This is a special place.
It's the station that I grew up watching. I grew up here in Hampton Roads.
I met my husband here.
Family and I have fallen in love with this place. It's where I got engaged. It's where we started a family, where we bought our first house.
This is my hometown. I'm from Virginia Beach.
I started here as a production assistant, and I worked behind the scenes, getting coffee, working the cameras.
I came out here and absolutely fell in love with the place.
I was born and raised here, and I'm a part of this community too. So when we tell these stories, we're telling our story as well.
I'm not just telling the stories of the market where I'm working. I'm telling the stories now of my neighbors, of my home, of my community.
I love the fact that here at Channel 13, I am given the opportunity to just take a subject and really drill down and work on it and create something that to me has lasting meaning, that can inform people, that can motivate people to go out and try to get involved.
When you're really working hard, that's when you're getting the story behind the story, the people that it impacts, and how we can make a change.
The role of the local news is as important as it's ever been.
I think of the stories of now, I think of the full story of Hampton Roads. And I feel like 13 News Now, that's how we tell stories.
We're the ones that are diving in, finding the stories that need to be told, and then telling them in a way that people understand what's happening in our own backyards.
While our focus on the stories of the Hampton Roads community has remained the same, the way we tell those stories has evolved over the years. In 1964, WVEC began broadcasting in color. In the 70s and 80s, new technologies like satellite trucks allowed us to leave the studio and bring you stories live from the scene as they happened. In the 90s, we launched our first website, making our news stories available on the internet for the first time. And a little over a decade later, we launched the 13 News Now app, making news and up-to-the-minute weather forecasts available on your smartphone. In 2013, we began broadcasting in high definition. And this year, as we celebrate our anniversary, we've even done some redecorating to highlight the moments and faces that have made the last 70 years so special.
The story of 13 News Now would be incomplete without the team of forecasters and meteorologists who have worked around the clock to keep you safe when severe weather strikes. 70 years ago, when we first went on the air, our modern forecasting technology was only a dream, but that didn't keep storms from taking aim at our area. Just 1 year after WVEC signed on the air, Hampton Roads was hit with one of the worst storms to ever strike the eastern seaboard. Hurricane Hazel knocked down trees, power lines, and radio towers with wind gusts as high as 130 miles per hour. Hazel sunk several ships in the James River, destroyed beachfront resorts, and took the lives of 13 people in Virginia alone. Community concerns about approaching storms led WVEC to begin broadcasting the Old Dominion Weather Outlook in September of 1960. So when Hurricane Donna blew in later that year, Channel 13 was ready to keep the Hampton Roads community informed. Retired Navy meteorologist Joe Folks joined WVEC as lead forecaster in the mid-60s, reliably serving the Hampton Roads community for over 20 years. Our area has seen countless severe weather events over the years. In 1980, Hampton Roads was hit with a massive blizzard. March 1st, 1980, the circus was in town and a snowstorm with near-blizzard conditions struck southeastern Virginia and coastal North Carolina. By the time the storm ended the next day, the Elizabeth City area was buried under 25 inches of snow, while 13.7 inches of snow fell in Hampton Roads, trapping hundreds of circus goers overnight at Norfolk Scope. In 1999, flooding from Hurricane Floyd became the worst natural disaster ever to hit North Carolina. And the city of Franklin was devastated as well, with the worst flooding in 500 years. People from communities all over Hampton Roads joined together to help Franklin rebuild. In 2003, Hurricane Isabel devastated North Carolina as well as much of Hampton Roads, leaving 1.5 million people without power. In 2008, an EF3 tornado hit Suffolk, one of the strongest tornadoes in years. Despite a 24-mile-long path and damaging numerous homes, no one was killed. And in 2016, Hurricane Matthew made landfall in South Carolina, but caused widespread flooding in eastern North Carolina and Virginia Beach.
The world's changed a lot since 1953, and we've been there every step of the way, recording the history-making moments of the place we call home. But none of this would be possible without you. You're the reason we're able to tell the stories of now.